Hello everybody, my name is Starrapter and welcome to the channel. Every week I break down the latest in Star Wars comics, TV, novels, and more. And this week we have 3 comics to talk about. The first one is nothing short but monumental. This is Darth Vader, issue number 25, part 7 of Fortress Vader arc. This is the final issue of this run, written by Soule and Giuseppe Camuncoli. And wow, this is nothing short but epic. So we have Vader, he's on Mustafar, he has opened this locus of power of the dark side, he has now stepped through this portal, and this is a very cinematic issue. It's not a lot being said by the written word, it's all from the perspective of Vader's inner self. We actually see past the armor into his actual self, which is this abysmal type of being, just a bunch of fire and whatnot, and we actually see him going through the past, the present, and even the future with things that are being said, things that are being experienced, and it is just, oh man, it is something else for a final issue. It's very introspective. It looks inside of the character and about his coming to terms with himself being not Anakin Skywalker anymore. He comes out of this issue, out of this series, saying, I am now Darth Vader. I have forgotten about Anakin Skywalker. And well, let's just dive right in. Something I want to mention, and you guys can chime in on the comments. There is a moment in this issue where he's actually seeing his mother, Shmi Skywalker, being manipulated by Palpatine. What looks like he is manipulating her with midichlorians to give birth, the virgin birth to Anakin Skywalker. Now, that's been mentioned in legends such as Darth Plagueis, but I don't think it's ever been hinted at in any of the canon, definitely the films kind of left it ambiguous about what happened there. So I think this is our first concrete bit of information that Anakin Skywalker was conceived in help by Palpatine to make him the chosen one, which is just boom, that's a bomb. That is a huge bomb for a story like a comic to really just release that kind of information. It just goes to show you how much that Soule has really had the loyalty with the people over at Lucasfilm to tell this story. It's something that I didn't expect to get out of this final issue for sure. The brutal combat was nuts. Like, he goes and he sees the Jedi, right? The Jedi temple, you have all the Jedi guardians, and he's chopping off heads. He's chopping off the arms of Kirik and Fala, and like all this stuff is going down. He's killing Yoda. He is going to Padme, and he reaches her and he says, like, let's get out of here. And well, it's too late for Anakin. And even in his vision, or whatever you want to call it, she's diving off of that building and there's no saving him. And that's when he decides, I am who I am. I'm going to abide by Palpatine and I have to live with who I am. There were choices back in the earlier part of the series where Vader looked like he might have been going to the light side in some respects, and well, now that is totally out of the window. This is his gauntlet to really test his mettle, so to speak, to really seeing who he's going to become now. I like the whole premise of this other kind of portal that he goes through, because Star Wars has played around with this kind of mysticism of the Force in the past. With the Clone Wars, you had the Mortis arc. With Star Wars Rebels, you had the world between worlds. So you're able to see past, present, future, which is a great depiction by Giuseppe Camuncoli. The artwork and everybody involved, man, I say this is epic, just fantastic artwork to really just get inside the feels. And there was emotional feels with seeing Anakin, which seeing Shmi, with seeing Ahsoka saying Sky Guy to Anakin. Just, oh man, this really actually hit me pretty hard in the feels. At the end, I think what that means with that bright light is possibly that Luke Skywalker. We know that, Darth Vader becomes Anakin at the very end when he throws Emperor down the little chute for the Death Star. So yeah, I mean, this was a great issue because it really just shows us how far Darth Vader has come to completing this first act or arc of his character. Really, I mean, just talking about the Darth Vader series as a whole. I'll be honest, when I first heard it announced, I was kind of not happy. I said, there's a million other characters in Star Wars you guys can tell stories about. We just finished a run of Star Wars Darth Vader by Kieran Gillen, and now you're going to tell us another story about Darth Vader? I'm not really buying this right now. And well, I got sold the very first issue, especially when you thought about what could happen, right? He's hunting down the Jedi. The clone troopers are getting decommissioned. It's going to be stormtroopers now. The Inquisitors, Vader building his castle, him creating his lightsaber. So many awesome moments unfolded in these 25 issues of a Star Wars comic that I stand by saying that this is pretty much essential reading for Star Wars fans. If you are thinking about diving into comics, this is the comic series that I always recommend to everybody pick up first. Everybody knows who Darth Vader is, right? That is the most iconic villain in Star Wars, and maybe one of the most iconic villains in history because how big Star Wars is now. And this really dives into the psyche of Darth Vader. He's such a, his helmet, right? You can't have emotions with the helmet, but somehow Charles Soule and the artist team is able to depict this character, and you actually understand what he's going through, even if you don't really agree with him, because yes, he's Darth Vader. We all don't like him, but we can actually understand what he's going through, and that just is so much, going toward the creative team behind this comic. I can't speak enough good things about this series of comics. So guys, if you haven't already picked up Darth Vader, and I hope that you probably have if you watched all through this, I'm sorry. Didn't leave a spoiler alert, but assume if you watch this on a weekly basis, you're okay with spoilers because I always talk about them. But yes, definitely go pick this one up for sure. Charles Soule, they hit a home run with this one, especially this last issue. Really just sent us off, and I cannot wait to see what Charles Soule is writing next. He has confirmed he is writing more Star Wars, so yeah, can't wait for an announcement. Maybe at a celebration in April, or maybe even sooner, he'll announce something new. And next up for Marvel, we have Solo, a Star Wars story. Issue number 3 is the comic adaptation, and it brings us to the point where Han meets Kira on Vandor, on Dryden's yacht. And it goes all the way up to the point where all of these characters see the Millennium Falcon and are about to go on the journey to Kessel. It also has moments of Han gambling against Lando, as well as the crew meeting Dryden Voss for the first time. So things that jumped out at me in this adaptation right off the first page. You know what you're getting yourself into because we get new information on Kira, or at least information that's depicted on a page, because we learned this information in the Solo novelization, but we learned a little bit about what happens to Kira after she gets trapped by the stormtroopers on Corellia when her and Han split up. Well, apparently Lady Proxima sells her off to this other guy, who then sells her off to Dryden Voss, who then trains her to use Terras Kasi, and then she eventually does some really bad things and even kills her previous master before Dryden Voss. So it's really cool getting to see those extra little moments that weren't even really expressed in the film. To actually see them on a page is awesome. I think the artwork in general is fantastic, and it really just ebbs and flows pretty well. There's some great perspective shots overhead with the gambling pit going on. A lot of cool things for sure in the artwork, and I really think this is going to be one of those solid adaptations that I am really enjoying. I think it's going to be up there with the Rogue One adaptation as maybe possibly the best one yet, so can't wait for issue number 4. And finally, the last comic I want to talk about this week is Star Wars Adventures issue number 16. So the first story in this is called All Aces Battle Royale, and this is a Star Wars Resistance story, and it has Kaz, and it has BB-8, a little bit of Poe Dameron, and while we have Kaz, he's still on a Colossus. There's a big race coming up. Apparently there's a First Order person that's a sympathizer that has communication that they were going to send out with the First Order. They're trying to mask it and send out the transmission during the busy time when all these ships are racing. So what does Kaz do as a spy? He ends up getting into the race himself to try to copy this transmission to get it to the Resistance to find out what the First Order is up to. So lots of hilarity ensues, lots of adventures unfold, and well, he does complete his mission. Things I liked about this little story is seeing how good it matches up with the TV shows. It felt like I was watching it on a Sunday morning, and it's got the spy vibes, it's got the racing vibes, it's got kind of the little humor that you would expect from the TV show, and it looks great. Obviously, for the animation translates really well to the written page, so to speak. So lots of cool stuff there. I did notice too that there's that two-headed announcer guy from the Phantom Menace is actually the announcer in this show. Apparently, I don't know if they're the same guy, but at least the same species, and I do not know what the species is called. You can look it up on Wikipedia, I'm sure, but I thought that was a nice little callback for sure. The next little story we have in here is a continuation of the Flight of the Falcon series. This is part 3 called Home Again. We have Lando, we have Nien Nunb, and they are approached by none other than Embo the bounty hunter. And we actually have the Falcon kind of fighting against Embo because something falls off one of the tubes and it traps Embo, and then Cal Raisin gets the upper hand and ties up Embo. And well, this whole story unfolds because in the future we have the character of Bazine Natal, also a bounty hunter. She's probably working for the First Order, is questioning Embo about where he's seen the Falcon last, and this was after the destruction of the Death Star. So I'm sitting here wondering why you have the character of Lando still holding on to the Falcon after the Death Star. They're talking about repairing it, but it's still Han, so why doesn't Han Solo have it right now? It's kind of the question that I'm wondering about right now. Also, something interesting is that Embo is working for the New Republic because Bazine mentioned something about, oh, you're not going to have any support anymore because, well, Starkiller Base has destroyed the New Republic at this point in the story. So, yeah, pretty cool stuff in that story as well. So, moving over to my question of the week. This comes to me on Twitter from James M., the Crazy Gamer Historian 1999, at Robin McCormick. He asked me, which Clone Wars TV show do you appreciate the most? The 2003 one, or the show that lasted from 2009 to 2013 and is about to come back? Great question, as always, from Robin McCormick. If you guys want to get your questions answered on the show, you could always tweet me, or you could always end up sending your comments in the comment section below. Hashtag Star Wars Weekly so I know which ones to read. So let's get into this question. Which one do I appreciate the most? Well, I appreciate both of them very much so because they've done different things for Star Wars in general. I do appreciate the Clone Wars from 2008 to 2013 more. I think it has more enriching storylines. Obviously, every episode was long. There was over 100 episodes, and the way they are structured really kind of honed in deeply on all these characters. Like I was saying before about Anakin Skywalker, the Mortis trilogy, you have all the clones that we're diving into. I have such a deep appreciation of the clones after watching that, and it enhances all of Star Wars. Now, don't get me wrong, the Clone Wars animated from Tartakovsky or whatever, I'm sorry I'm butchering his name, they were bite-sized little things. And what I liked about that one is, because I remember when they were airing on, I think it was the Cartoon Network, before Revenge of the Sith came out. So it was like this huge event where like every night for a couple weeks, they would air like a 2 or 3 minute chunk. And it was like, oh, we're going to learn all about these characters. And I remember we learned about General Grievous for the first time through that micro series. In fact, we learned about how he even got that weird cough that he shows up with on that Separatist dreadnought. Apparently it was from Mace Windu, like force choking his heart or something like that when they were escaping with Palpatine over on Coruscant. We learned about Asajj Ventress. We learned about Anakin, I guess, getting that scar on his eye. And it was just very cool. You have that Dirge bounty hunter on a swoop bike battle with Obi-Wan Kenobi. So there was lots of exciting moments, and that's what the show is about. It wasn't going to get very deep into the characters, but for the action, it was really good action. I mean, there was Jedis that were jumping like, 500 feet in the air. Stuff that wasn't realistic, but since it was stylized in an animated format, it definitely made a lot more sense. It definitely looked cool. But yeah, I gotta give it to Clone Wars from 2008 to 2013. It really just brought Star Wars into a whole nother era. And it was the only thing we had at the time. So I really appreciated that for that moment. And the fact that it made the prequels so much better, if you watch the Clone Wars, they enhanced the prequels, they bridged the gap to future stories that would be told in the original trilogy, and I'm just so jazzed about it, coming back for another season on Disney+. I'm really looking forward to that, especially for what happens on Mandalore, the Siege of Mandalore storyline we're going to get. Oh man, that's going to be incredible. So actually next week we're going to be off. There is absolutely nothing for Star Wars comics coming out, but the following week, which is January 2nd, we're going to get Age of the Republic, Obi-Wan, #1, Han Solo, Imperial Cadet, #3 as well. So I hope you guys all have a great holiday. Be safe out there. And let me know what you're looking forward to for Star Wars in 2019, because it's going to be one hell of a year, guys. We're getting The Mandalorian, we're getting Episode 9, we're getting The Clone Wars, we're getting just so much content. We're getting Star Wars, Jedi Fallen Order, whatever it's called. I cannot wait for all of that. It's going to be a banner year. Star Wars Celebration, too. I'm so hyped to go to my first celebration. Let's talk about all that good stuff in the comment section below. If you're new to the channel, welcome. I do this every single week, mostly. Well, next week is going to be the first week I'm taking off. subscribe to the channel because you'll never miss another video. And I have tons of other content that revolve around games, such as Sea of Thieves and movie reviews. It's a very busy time for movies because, well, there's no Star Wars movie out this month, which really sucks. But that means we get tons of other great movies to watch as well. But anyway, that's going to do it for me, Starrapter. Thank you guys for so much for sticking around for me this year. It's been a great year, and next year is going to even be better. Have a good one, and may the Force be with you always. Thanks for checking out the video. Please hit that thumbs up symbol. It helps me know that I'm making content that you guys enjoy. And if you enjoyed this video, I also include 2 videos down below you guys should check out. And please consider subscribing to this channel. It helps support me, and it notifies you guys of when I get new videos up on the channel. You can also contact me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Starrapter.